It's the end of a long day and you finally crawled into bed. Your partner gets in beside you and reaches for you. Just a hand on your back, nothing wild. A completely normal, loving, ordinary gesture from a person who loves you. And your entire body says, no. Not, no, I don't love you. Not, no, I don't want you. Just this full body flinch you can feel to your core. Your skin feels like it's already been touched too many times today. Your shoulders come up, and there's this half second where you have to decide whether to pull away or hold still or say something or let it happen and hope your face doesn't tell on you. And then comes the part that actually hurts. The story you tell yourself afterward. Something's wrong with me. Normal people want to be touched by the person they love. Everybody else can do this. What's wrong with me? And the story your partner tells themselves quietly, without saying it out loud. She doesn't want me anymore. She's not attracted to me. She's pulling away. Two people in the same bed, both deciding they're the problem, when the problem is really not that simple. Your body was not rejecting your partner. Your body was responding in a space of overwhelm. Those are two completely different things, and almost nobody teaches you the difference. And here's the part that's going to surprise you, so stay with me all the way to the end today. That same sensory system, the one you've been apologizing for your entire adult life, when the lights quite literally hurt you and you need them at a less of a brain-splitting intensity, pretty please. That sensory system doesn't just limit your sex life, it can actually also make it extraordinary. This is the Neurodivergent Love Lab. I'm Jenna Dalton, a psychologist who's ADHD. I help ADHD, autistic, and ADHD women feel truly understood and deeply loved. And this is episode 15. Your partner thinks you're rejecting them. You're just touched out. What now? Today we're talking about touch, closeness, sex, and the way your sensory system, the one that runs quietly in the background of every single thing you do, shapes all of it. And I'm going to do this in 3 parts because I think the third one is the one that rarely gets talked about. Part 1 is what's actually happening in your body. Part 2 is where it gets hard and why Not Tonight gets so badly misread. And part 3, which is honestly my favorite part of this whole episode, is the upside, the genuine, real, not an unrealistically optimistic upside. Because the sensory system with the volume turned up is not only turned up on the bad stuff, it's also turned up during the good as well. The sexual experience as a neurodivergent woman is not really talked about a whole lot. It doesn't show up in the relationship books. It definitely didn't show up in sex ed, at least not for me. So a whole lot of women end up sitting in the dark at 11 at night after saying no because they just couldn't make their bodies say yes, quietly convinced they're broken. You're not broken. You've got a nervous system with strong opinions. Let's talk about it. Okay, so why is this a conversation nobody's having? A few reasons. The first one is that most of what you've been taught about intimacy assumes a fairly average sensory system. It assumes that touch feels good, that closeness is soothing, that a candlelit room is romantic, and not just a room where you can't see anything properly. All of that advice was written for a body that takes in the world at a neurotypical volume. Yours doesn't. The second reason is that you were probably raised to be receptive. Girls get trained early to be agreeable about their bodies. Be nice, don't make it weird, don't make a fuss. Hug your uncle even if you don't want to. Ew. That training doesn't disappear when you become an adult with a partner. It just goes underground and turns into a very quiet voice that says, don't make this a whole thing. Just go along and make them happy. The third reason is that you might not have the words. If you've spent your life being told you're too sensitive, you learn to stop reporting on your senses. So by the time you're a grown woman with a partner reaching for your back, you don't have a sentence for, that particular kind of touch on my skin right now feels like you're stabbing me. You just have, I'm being weird and sensitive again. And the fourth reason is the one that makes me so frustrated. So let's say it louder for the people in the back. Almost everything ever written about autism and sex has been written as a list of deficits. For decades, the story was that autistic people are asexual or detached or somehow not built for intimacy at all, not interested, not capable, not really in the conversation. That story is nonsense and it's harmful, and thankfully, it's finally getting dismantled. There's a clinician I want to point you toward, Candace Christensen, who's ADHD herself and has spent about 2 decades working with autistic adults and couples specifically on intimacy. She wrote a book that was released earlier this year called Love, Sex, and Autism. And the whole premise is that autistic adults are absolutely capable of love and healthy sex, and they deserve intimacy where they feel safe enough to unmask and be their actual selves. Let's go over that last part again because it's the hinge of this entire episode. Safe enough to unmask, not safe enough to tolerate, safe enough to stop performing. Because here's what happens when nobody has this conversation. Both you and your partner, make something up in the silence. She's not attracted to me anymore, or I'm broken. And you both walk away carrying a story that isn't true, carrying shame that isn't true. So let's fix that. Let's talk about how your sensory system actually works. Here's part 1. Your volume dial is just set differently. Here's the simplest explanation I can give you. Every human being takes in information through their senses all day long. Sound, light, touch, smell, taste, plus a couple you might not have heard of that I'll go into in a second. Neurotypical brains do a decent job of filtering it. They turn down the hum of the fridge, the tag in your shirt, the flicker of the light, so you can get on with your day. A lot of neurodivergent brains don't filter like that. There's a theory about autism called the intense world theory, and I love it because it flips the whole story. The old story said autistic people don't perceive enough. The intense world idea says the opposite. You perceive more detail, more input, more feeling, all coming in at a higher volume with less of a filter. And the research has looked at this specifically in autistic women, which almost never happens. Research on women, especially neurodivergent women, it's lovely. And they found real sensory hypersensitivity there. So when you're wrecked by fluorescent lights or by a scratchy seam or by the sound of someone chewing, that's not you being difficult. That's a nervous system that's receiving a signal at a much higher volume than the person beside you. Okay, now 3 things about this that almost nobody explains, and all 3 matter later. So listen up, my friend. Thing 1, it goes both ways. You can be both oversensitive to some input and undersensitive to other input in the same body, sometimes in the same hour. This is called sensory seeking and sensory avoiding, and you could absolutely be both. You might crave deep pressure and hate light touch. You might want loud music in the car and be undone by a whisper. That's not inconsistency, that's a detailed sensory profile. Hold on to that word, seeking, because your sensory system doesn't only run away from things, it also actively goes looking. We'll come back to that in part 3. Thing 2, it's not fixed. Your sensory capacity on Tuesday morning after a good sleep and a healthy breakfast is a completely different creature from your sensory capacity on Thursday night after a day of meetings. Same body, same person, wildly different tolerance. And for a lot of us, it shifts across the month too, which we'll dig into properly in a few weeks when we talk about your hormones and how they play into your neurodivergence as well. Thing 3, and this is the one that changes everything. There's a sense you may not have heard of called interoception. That's your ability to read what's going on inside your own body, your hunger, your thirst, whether you need to go to the bathroom, tension, arousal. And a lot of neurodivergent people have a shaky signal there. Sit with that for a second because it matters enormously for intimacy. If your internal signal is fuzzy, then what do you like during sex is not a simple question. It's a genuinely hard question. You're being asked a question you quite literally do not have the answer to. You're not being difficult, you just don't know. And then layer on alexithymia, which is a big word for something simple. It means having a hard time finding names for your own internal states. You feel something. Absolutely, you feel something. You're just not sure what it is or what to call it. This is why it's like you get that sensation in your body. You're feeling something. You just can't put your finger on it. You can't label it. So put those together. You have a body that takes in more than most people, an internal gauge that's hard to read, and a limited vocabulary for what you find there. And then somebody rolls over and says, "Hey, baby, what do you want?" Of course that's hard. It was always going to be hard. It's not a character flaw. It's a hardware situation, and hardware situations have workarounds. Thank goodness. Part 2, where it gets hard. All right, let's get specific because vague is not something I do. Is my autism showing? Touch itself is the obvious one. There's a real difference between light touch and deep pressure, and a lot of us have strong feelings about it. Light, unpredictable, fluttery touch can feel almost electric in a bad way, like static or scratchiness on your skin. Deep, firm, steady pressure can feel great, which means she doesn't like to be touched can be completely wrong. She doesn't like that touch. She might love a firm hug, a strong hand on her thigh, a deep squeeze of her shoulder. But feathery fingertips on her back, like you'd see in a rom-com, that may not be her jam. Predictability matters too. Being touched when you didn't see it coming can land very differently from touch you watched arrive. Your nervous system had no time to get ready, so the exact same hand on the exact same shoulder can be lovely or awful depending entirely on whether you saw it coming. Then there's the whole environment, which nobody counts. The overhead light, the TV still going on in the other room, the temperature, the texture of the sheets, the smell of a new laundry soap. Your partner isn't wrong when they say the room seems fine. It is fine to them. It's just that you're getting 4 extra channels of information that they're not getting. Now here's a big one, capacity. If you spent the whole day masking, you come home with an empty battery. Touch drains that battery. Sex drains that battery. So the moment your partner reaches for you is very often the moment in the day when you have the very least left to give. Not because you're not into them, because they're coming on to you on a day that you're already utterly depleted. That's the come home collapse showing up in the bedroom. And it gets read as rejection basically every time. It's hard to not take it personally when someone says no, when no one understands what's underneath. I did a whole episode on this a couple weeks back, so if this feels close to home, be sure to check out episode 13, what masking costs your relationship and what unmasking actually looks like. And then there's the after. A lot of women talk about the alone time that they need after closeness, even good closeness, even closeness they wanted and enjoyed. And they're terrified to say so because it looks so much like regret. It isn't regret. It's a nervous system that just took in a very large amount of input and needs a minute to come back down. Needing quiet afterward doesn't undo what happened. It's just the safe landing a nervous system that's just been through a heck of a ride needs. And here's one that's so important to name because it's the one that quietly costs the most. Masking in the bedroom. You've spent your whole life performing fine, so you probably perform here too. You keep a smile on your face, you don't pull away, you say yes to keep the peace, you push through the sensory thing because making it stop would mean making it a whole conversation, and you've been trained since you were 6 years old not to make things the whole conversation. And here's what that costs. When you override your body to keep someone else happy, you're not present, you're managing. So the closeness that was supposed to connect you actually pulls you further out of your own body and further away from your partner. You can be physically as close as 2 people can get and feel completely alone. That's the fawn response, the appease and accommodate wiring so many of us run, showing up in the most intimate place it could possibly show up. And I want to be direct with you here, gently but clearly, because it matters. Saying yes when your body says no over and over and over again doesn't just make for a disappointing evening. It teaches you to distrust your own signals in the one place you most need to trust them. Your body saying no is not you trying to ruin your partner's day. It's information about what your capacity is right now. And you're allowed to listen to it. You're allowed to say it out loud. Okay, one more thing before we turn the corner. A sensory no is not a rejection of a person. Let me say that again, because your partner needs this sentence and so do you. Rewind this and play it for them. A sensory no is not a rejection of a person. It's a report on the input. Not this touch, not right now, not in this room, is a completely different sentence from not you. They just sound similar if nobody's paying attention to the difference. Part 3, the part nobody talks about, where it gets extraordinary. Okay, here's the turn. And this is the bit that turns this into a warm and fuzzy episode. Everything I've just said has been about friction, and that's genuinely where a lot of women live with this. So it had to come first. But I've also sat with a lot of women in this exact conversation, and there's a moment that happens over and over when the frame flips, and it goes something like this. Hang on, if my volume is turned up, then it's turned up on everything. Yes, it is, my friend. You've spent so long doing the accounting on one side of this ledger, the lights, the textures, the sounds, the recovering, all the things that cost you, and you have almost certainly never once done the accounting on the other side. So let's do it. Let's talk about 5 things. 1, more signal is more signal. Your nervous system isn't running a smaller version of everyone else's experience. It's running a bigger one, which means the sensation that another person would describe as, oh, that's nice, you might experience as absolutely incredible. Warmth, weight, pressure, texture, rhythm, the exact same input, and you're getting it in higher definition. When they have it in HD, you're getting it in 4K. You're not getting a lesser version of this. When the conditions are right, you're often getting a more vivid one than the person next to you can even imagine. Nobody has ever told you that because everybody was too busy cataloging what bothers you. 2, sensory seeking is a real thing, and it's a menu, not a malfunction. Remember I said your system doesn't only avoid, it also seeks. That's not a small footnote. That's a whole map of things your body actively wants. Deep pressure, weight, temperature, particular textures, repetition, and rhythm, which a lot of us find genuinely regulating. And here's the thing about the stuff that regulates your nervous system. It doesn't stop being regulated when the lights go out. The weighted blanket principle doesn't clock out at bedtime. A lot of women discover that what actually works for them is firmer, slower, more predictable, more repetitive than what they thought they were supposed to want. And the moment they stop apologizing for that and start asking for it, everything changes. And I want to say it plainly because my practice is sex positive and kink affirming, and I'm not going to be coy about it. What works for your nervous system might look nothing like what you saw in films. That is not a problem to be solved. That's just your actual body telling you what it likes in the only language it has. 3, deep attention is a gift, and you have an unusual amount of it. There's a framework I love this framework. It's called monotropism. And the simple explanation is that neurodivergent attention tends to go deep into one thing rather than spreading thin across many. It's why you can lose 4 hours to something that interests you. Now point that at a person. Most people are half present most of the time. Thinking about tomorrow, running a mental list, half here. When your conditions are right and your attention locks in, you're not halfway anywhere. You're entirely, completely single channel here. That kind of attention is rare, and it's an extraordinary thing to receive. The same wiring that made you learn everything about your special interest can make you the person who knows precisely what your partner likes and remember it and get it exactly right every time. That's extraordinary. You can be present and in touch with their desires in a way most partners dream of receiving. 4, attunement. We sometimes talk about hyperempathy on this show as a cost, and often it is. I mean, let's be real. There are costs and there are strengths to our neurodivergence. Picking up every shift in the room, feeling other people's feelings in your own body, all of that can be exhausting. But in this specific context, it stops being a burden and becomes something close to a strength because you can feel your partner's state without them narrating it. You can track the shift in their breathing. You notice the change before it's spoken. That's not a small thing. That's what everybody else is trying to learn from a book. You've been doing it involuntarily since you were a tiny human. Here, finally, is a place where it's just straightforwardly good. You are so attuned to your partner in that moment, it's like you can read their mind and know exactly what to do next. 5. Specificity beats guessing every single time. This is the reframe I want you to carry out of this episode. You think your specificity is a restriction, that you need this, not that, firm, not light, warned, not surprised. It feels like a list of rules, and rules feel like the opposite of romance. Flip it. That's not a list of restrictions. That's a set of instructions that give your partner the keys to your queendom. Think about how most couples do this. They guess. They guess for years. They read each other's faces and hope that they're getting it right. Neither of them says anything specific because saying something specific feels awkward, and the rom-coms say that's not sexy. So they both quietly settle for approximately, potentially, maybe right forever. You don't have to do that. Your nervous system won't let you get away with vague. So you're forced into the conversation everybody else avoids. And you come out the other side of it with actual information about what feels best for you. The couple who has to talk about it ends up with a better time than the couple who assumed and guessed every time. Your sensory system didn't hand you a limitation. It handed you a reason to have the conversation that most people never have. And here's what ties all 5 of those together. None of it is available while you're masking. You can't receive high definition sensation while you're monitoring your own face. You can't go single channel present while you're performing. You can't get precision while you're saying, no, it's fine, I'm okay. Every one of those 5 things requires you to be actually in your body, actually telling the truth, actually there. So this isn't just about comfort. Unmasking isn't the thing you do so that intimacy is bearable. Unmasking is the thing that makes the extraordinary version possible in the first place. You don't have a sensory problem. You have a sensory profile. And nobody, including you, has ever tried designing for it. So how do you actually have this conversation then? How do you design for it? Here are 4 things to do. And you don't have to do all 4 this week. I mean, you can, but you don't have to. Make a plan and a time frame that works for you. Step 1, take your own inventory and start with green. Before you talk to anybody, you need to know what you're talking about. And you can't figure that out live in the moment with someone waiting on you. So do it alone when nothing's happening. Get a piece of paper or grab your notes app and make 3 lists. And I want you to start with green deliberately because every woman I've ever given this to starts with red. You know your red list by heart. You've been managing it your whole life. Start with the other one and let it be the longest. Okay, 3 things on your list. Green, things that feel good, firm hugs, weight, warmth, slow, predictable, hair being played with, being told what's coming before it comes, whatever's actually true for you. Push yourself past 3 items on the page. Get to 10. Yellow, things that depend on the day, on the light, on how much you've got left in the tank. This list is usually long, and that's important because it depends is a real answer, and it's okay that that's the answer. Red, things that are a no most of the time. Certain textures, being touched in that way without warning, a specific sound. And here's a really key part while you're building these lists. Don't judge the lists. Don't argue with them. You're not deciding whether your preferences are reasonable. You're collecting data on the nervous system you actually have. And if you get stuck on green, work backwards from any moment in your life that felt physically good. Not necessarily sexually, just good. The hot bath, the heavy blanket, the one cozy sweater you want to wear every day. The specific hug from the specific person in that specific way. That's data, and it can give you clues about how to translate that idea into your sex life. Step 2, build one green thing on purpose. This is the move that makes this episode different from every other thing you've read about sensory needs. So please don't skip it. Almost all sensory advice is about removal. Take the bad thing out. Turn the light off. Change the sheets. Stop the noise. Removal is necessary, and it's also not sufficient. Because if all you ever do is subtract, the very best you can ever get is get to neutral, an absence of bad. And you deserve considerably more than an absence of bad. You deserve the presence of exceptional pleasure. So this week, add one thing on purpose from your green list. Pick one item and build an evening or morning or afternoon around it rather than around avoiding your red list. That might be weight. It might be warmth, a hot shower first, the heating up, the heavy quilt. It might be a specific texture. It might be a particular kind of pressure asked for directly in words out loud. And say it out loud like it's a good thing, because it is. I want to try something. There's a thing that feels really good to me and I've never asked for it. Watch what that sentence does to your partner. Most partners have spent years hearing a list of things that don't work. Handing them something that does work, something they can actually give you, is one of the most generous things you can do for a person who loves you and has been quietly worrying they're getting it wrong. Step 3, use the translation sentence. When something isn't working, the language that lands has 3 pieces, and it's short. It's not you, it's the input. Here's what does work. That's it. Here's it in action. It's not that I don't want you. Light touch on my arms feels like static right now. Can you please press harder? It's not that I want to be away from you. My body is just done today. Can we lie next to each other with the light off instead? It's not that tonight was bad. It was really good. I just need some quiet moments to come back down. Notice what every single one of those does. It names what it isn't, it names what it is, and it offers a swap. That last part is doing so much work because a no with no alternative sounds like a door closing. A no with a swap sounds like an invitation with better directions. You're not shutting anything down. You're redirecting. Step 4, check capacity before, not during, and name your signal in advance. Here I want you to do 2 things. First, stop finding out about your capacity in the middle of sex. Intentionally go out of your way to figure it out at the start of the evening. Some couples use a number 1 to 10. Some use colors. Some use words. I'm at about a 2 tonight, but I'd love to sit next to you. I'm in the red right now, but I'm planning to have a bath later. Can we watch a show together after? The system doesn't matter. What matters is that the information arrives early and out loud instead of arriving in the middle of it when it feels that much more challenging to take a step back and everybody is taking it personally and feeling shame. And to the woman who's thinking this ruins the spontaneity, I hear you. It does. But be honest with me. How spontaneous is it really right now? Because right now, the evening involves you privately dreading the moment, running the calculation about whether saying no is worth the conversation, and then either performing or flinching. That's not fun spontaneity. That's a woman doing math in the dark, trying to not disappoint anyone while letting herself down. Naming your capacity early doesn't kill the mood. It's what makes an actual yes possible. And an actual yes means the most delightful mood possible. Second, agree on a short phrase, something in advance that means I need to change something and I'm not going anywhere. Something like, can we adjust? I need a shift. Let's try this. Whatever fits the 2 of you. Then in the moment, you don't have to compose a paragraph while your nervous system is going off. You say the handful of words you already agreed on and your partner already knows it means she's still here. She just needs the lights off. You built the meaning together in advance, so it's less likely to get misread later. Now, all 4 of those moves have something in common. They only really work if your partner has their own side of it. Because here's the trap I want you to dodge. The old model where the neurodivergent woman does all the translating, all the explaining, all the adapting forever. That's not a relationship. That's a customer service job. That's exactly why I built my free workbook, How to Feel Understood in Love. It's a 2-way love map, 2 sides, one for you, one for them. It walks you both through naming what's happening under the surface and translating it for each other. So this doesn't become one more thing you carry alone. And for this episode, do the section where you each map what closeness needs to look like to feel good for you, and then swap, exchange them, talk about both halves, what doesn't work and what actually does. Most couples only ever manage the first half, what doesn't work. And the first half on its own just gets you to neutral. You can get it for free at jennadalton.com/love map. That's jennadalton.com/love map. Okay, here's what I want you to take with you. You're not cold. You're not broken. You're not bad at this. And you are definitely not someone who has to settle for the careful, managed, minimum viable version of intimacy while everyone else gets the fireworks version. You have a body that takes in more than most, an internal signal that can be hard to read, and 30 odd years of training that told you to be agreeable about all of it. Of course this got complicated. It would be strange if it hadn't. But the volume being up was never only bad news. Turn toward the wrong input at the end of a wrung out day in a room full of light and noise, it costs you. Turn toward the right input with someone you trust, with the mask actually off. It's the reason you get to feel things at a depth most people never get to experience. Same wiring, both times. The only variable is whether you give yourself permission to truly meet your own needs. So this week, do two things. Write down your green list and make it long. And then ask for one thing on it out loud. Not, please stop doing that thing that bothers me. Ask for the thing you actually want. You've earned about 30 years worth of that. Then go get the workbook and do the rest together at jennadalton.com/love map. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Remember, you deserve to feel truly understood and deeply, deeply loved. I'll talk to you soon.